Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Origins into one of the most recognized circuits in world motorsport, whether it be on 2 wheels or 4. Circuit boasts many great things such as an interactive museum, the Silverstone experience, a thriving business park, and home to motorsport businesses including the Aston Martin Formula 1 team. I'm Tim Cox. We've got Lewis right in the production booth, but as always, I'm joined by Seb Bosher-Williams. Seb, Silverstone, F3s, the drama that this championship has thrown into us from the 15-minute race 1 to the 30-minute race 2, with its pit stops and the top 8 being inverted. I don't think you could really ask for much more of an epic combination.
You certainly couldn't. It's the perfect amalgamation of all of the right rules and tracks and cars into one amazing package that we are absolutely lucky to be watching tonight. You're right, Silverstone, what an amazing track it is. It's got everything. It's got a really tricky slow speed section where the drivers are going to have to be so careful on the power and on the brakes. You know, the traction is so key. And then you open into this long straight, you have fast corners. And of course the Maggots and Beckett's complex, one of the most famous set of corners anywhere on the Formula 1 calendar. You know, this track sort of is a driver's track in so many ways. There are so many different types of corners. You have to be really on your game, and this track lends itself so well to racing, especially in these Formula 3 cars. There's so many overtaking spots, so many even unconventional overtaking spots that I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see drivers basically overtake at every single point on this track, and I for one cannot wait for the action. As track temp also, just to spice things up, 22 degrees, so very grippy out there. Now that's going to give the drivers a little bit more confidence. Whether it's too much confidence, we'll have to find out. We've only got around about 7 minutes before race number 1.
And it's just jumped up a little bit. It's 27 degrees track, 21 ambient, so a little bit cooler than what we saw last time out at Interlagos, where we're in the high 30s in terms of track temperature. And that's definitely going to surely invoke some even spicier racing compared to what we saw last time, and who could forget it as well. By taking the victory in race 1, Gullikson taking the victory in race 2. Race 2 was marred with, well, I say marred, I said doing it as disfavour, at least gives negative connotations. Yeah, we saw lots of drama, excitement that really shook things up. The drivers just completing their first flying lap. Isaacson setting the initial place, Torp in second. Larson just heads up into third there. Gessenbacken into fourth. Just waiting on Meyer to see what sort of time he can post. The usual protagonist at the front as Isaacson. So it's the front and rear, they're swapping ends. And that's not going to help that lap at all. Of course, the drivers have 4 laps in this championship. However, with a longer track length, and the pole position time currently a 1:51.51 for those fans of patterns. It's definitely going to be not going to want any mistakes if you want to gain all 4 laps here. You need to be going right foot to the floor. To the point of actually, you're only just about going to squeeze them in, so definitely a more challenging one for the drivers out there in this qualifying. Of course, the grid for during qualifying will be formed, and then for race 2, we'll take the race results of race 1. However, as mentioned previously, the top 8 will be inverted, so the driver finishing in 8th place will start on pole. Driver finishing first will start in 8th, and obviously everyone in between will filter through accordingly. Now, Maya had an off-track on lap 1, so this time got deleted. Going again, just coming round to close out the lap. What sort of lap time can he produce? Assuming he hasn't come off, just strayed. Well, there you go. Straight in there. Top of the timing sheets. First driver into the 150s, albeit just with a 150.98. Torp responding, but only just a fraction, 2/10 slower. Ooh, Seb, I think this is going to be a close one yet again, as we've seen all season long.
Certainly is looking like that. My outlier is Gullikson up there in 3rd place. Not to take away anything from Gullikson, he is a superbly quick driver, but obviously spurred on after his win last time out, 3/10 off Anders Meyer, who, it's an incredible lap time. Behrens actually is the closest driver to that lap time, just outside the 1 minute 50.9s. We're having a look at Ryan here. Coming into Brooklyn, such a difficult corner, so many different lines you can take into this corner. Always really catches people out when you're racing wheel to wheel with them. You can sort of have a miscommunication, very loose on the exit there. Through Luffield we go. And you do not want to be doing that during the race. It's so close to the wall of Woodcote there. It was almost like a street track, we were so close. Doing our best Monaco impression through cops as well. These cars unable to do it flat like the Formula 1 cars, but if you ever get a chance to drive one of these cars around this track, it would frighten the life out of you how quickly these cars are going around these corners. We head through the Maggots and Beckett's complex. Again, the rear stepping out a little bit for Ryan, not exactly where he would have wanted the rears to be, whether it's a setup change or just simply overheating the rears at the first part of the lap. It all degrades the rear performance, but yeah, he's certainly losing time, just not able to trust the car. As we head through Stowe, has to take quite a lot of steering lock in there and delay getting on the throttle to make sure he doesn't get the off-track on the exit of Stowe. So we head into the village chicane, cuts it nicely to the left-hand side to open up the right-hand corner, and through the final corner we go. And this has been a fairly good lap from Ryan. Does he improve? He does not. He stays with a 1 minute 52.76, about thousandths of a second off.
So, Seb, sorry to cut across you. We've had a change at the top of the standings. Isaacson has gone quickest, 150.776. So 2/10 quicker than Meyer. With Torp nipping at his heels, however, just looking at the clock, they're going to get the finish out there current flying and final flying lap. Gullickson, he's done and dusted. He's headed to the pits, likewise Haraldson as well. Drivers still out there trying to improve. Asgard yet to set a time and currently in the pits, so it looks like he's going to start at the rear of the field.
Isaacson's just pulled into the pits as well, so he cannot improve. So it's all eyes on this man, Anders Meyer. Can he knock Isaacson off the top spot?
Wow, Meyer can do it. I mean, the second time he's been on pole this season. Obviously, Torp taking the other 2 poles as we head into the second half of the season. Europe for the remaining rounds. So we've got 2nd of June. Barcelona before we round out the season on the 16th of June at the Nürburgring. What can Meyer do? Wow. That answers that question.
That's what he can do. He can do a very nice drift at Stowe. Unfortunately for Anders Meyer, you don't get pole position for a good drift. So uncharacteristic mistake there as Joachim Stotter tries to improve on her 17th place into a village chicane. She goes. I love this chicane. Do you remember we saw Verstappen and Leclerc racing here, I think in 2019. We're going to see more of that today. I certainly hope so. As can she improve as she crosses the line? Yeah, ahead of Andreasen. So she will start from 16th place on the grid. And wow, have we ever seen Meyer make a mistake before, Tim? Because I can't recall.
During qualifying to that measure, no, I can't recall, no, but we're going to have a brand new, different pole sitter for the first time this season. Isaacson clinching that one. Nigel Coatings, a great lap from him. 2 tenths quicker than anyone else, with Meyer joining him on the front row. Torp and Jakob Behrens, great qualifying by Behrens, missing him out on that 3rd place by 7 thousandths of a second. That's right, 7 thousandths. Incredibly close here once again in the Nordic F3 Championship. Gullickson and Grebstrad on the 3rd row, with Larson and Jessenbakken on the 4th row of the grid. Then we've got Nilsson and Sorensen taking up to the 10th place in the 5th row, with Scarrett and Haig on the 6th row. The 7th row, that's Jokkelsen and Andreasen, with the 8th row, Tveten and Ryan. Also Holt and Joachim Stotter on the 9th row, with Haraldson and Jensen on up to 20th and your 10th row of the grid. Then it's Hauksson and Asgard to round out the field, with Asgard not setting a time during qualifying, unfortunately. Just waiting for the drivers to take to the grid before we off ready for race 1. So just going back to what you said earlier about Magnus Beckett's being some of the most iconic corners. Well, you said in F1, I think I'd go far to say World Motorsport. I think it's up there with Oru's Radion. I'd say as well the Corkscrew at Laguna Seca. Wow, I'm trying to think of other ones that I'd put into that category. I think I'll go initially with that as my top 3.
Yeah, I think I would too. Trying to think of any other iconic corners. I think the carousel at the Nürburgring, I think, would have to be up there.
That is a really good call, isn't it? And which would you displace of those other 3 to form your top 3? That's a real challenging one, isn't it? It's like choosing between your children. Trying to pick out your top 3 amongst those 4, aside of any others. But here we come the lights, and let's get ready to go racing for the first time at Silverstone. And we are green. And Isaacson pulling away with a good advantage. Meyer just trying to follow through. And he's got Torp alongside me. Just heads back out. We've got contact already. 2 cars have mounted one another. I think Behrens is one of them, and Gullickson was the other.
Gullickson, the other one. Disaster timing stands that are going absolutely mental on the lap 1. Meyer's taken the lead as well out front. We're on board with Grebstrad, but for the lead, they're side by side as we head out of the loop on to the Hangar Straight. Sorry, it's not the Hangar Straight, it's the Wellington Straight. I will get there eventually. Side by side as they head down towards Brooklyn, Tim.
There we go, Meyer going for the lead, and Isaacson just holding in there, trying to keep his car alongside, but Meyer taking that outside line, trying to carry more speed, more momentum. Isaacson still side by side as they come through. fight through the corner. They're still inseparable. They're practically holding hands. And Torp is looming in the background. So is Grebstrad, who he has to think about in his mirrors. They're still side by side. How are they managing this one? And Torp trying to switch lanes as they're coming onto Noah's Ark. It's almost 4 wide as we enter into Magnus and Beckett's. And somehow they zip together and sort themselves out. Maya ahead of Isaacson, followed by Torp and then Grebstrad. That could have been disaster, but who's going to get a best exit? Onto the hangar straight, out of Chapel, and here comes Torp shooting through in the slipstream. He's going to be on the outside as they come into Stowe, and he gets the move done. And Isaacson goes from first to third in as many corners nearly as Torp. Having a bit of a wiggle on there and nearly losing the rear end. But he's going to come instantly under pressure because Isaacson is mounting an attack yet again. Grebstrad, Larson, Jestrenbacher, they're all involved in the fight. They're coming along for the ride. And all of a sudden, Seb, he's got a little bit more spicy.
Certainly did, yeah, sort of the opposite of, sorry, it's the same as Spa. Maya up to the lead. Yeah, Isaacson struggled on the opening lap, but crucially for Isaacson, Grebstrad had a fairly horrible middle sector. After they all sorted themselves out on the entry to Magnus and Beckett, Grebstrad couldn't follow this pair through, so couldn't capitalise on Torp getting past Isaacson. So Isaacson looking good, actually coming back at his teammate towards Brooklyn, and that's a fairly easy move for Isaacson. Grebstrad so close to the back of Thomas Torp's car. Almost evasive action, and that set him very wide for Luffield. Now is Larson going to think about a move on the exit? Grebstrad's going to have the better exit. He's going to have more speed. So wide through Luffield, and the two teammates in second and third still battling away as we head towards Cops. And these, Isaacson and Torp, they need to stop this squabbling and get after Maya, because he is just racing off into the distance. He's got so much pace at the moment, and could we have seen him on pole if he didn't make that mistake towards Stowe? So Maya could just have the pace to win, and if he does, you don't want to be sort of squabbling and losing time, fighting between your teammates. You need to work together, get towards Anders, and then you can sort of sort out the positions in the final sort of few laps. As Joachim Stotter's had some form of incident off the track as she's dropping down the field. She actually was up into 14th place, so had a good start, but seeing all of that work unfortunately undone on the second lap.
Got a replay here, so this is the start. So there is Berens in the number 12 car, so he's in the middle, a 3 wide. Oh, that is what happened. Wow, I think you could feel the disaster looming and brewing. And Berens, he has got going again, but he is 2 laps down, so not the starts that he would have hoped to race one. Tveiten also caught up in that. Also had retirements from Gullikson and Sorensen, although Sorensen just got out again. So this is a replay of Joachim Stotter. What has happened to her? Oh, you said earlier, didn't you, Seb, you spotted that she'd been involved in some sort of incident. Oh no, she's just lost it all by herself.
So that's a case of dirty air. It was really eloquently pictured there. She sort of got caught out by how much the front end pushing or understeer. She turned in the car and the car just didn't have enough airflow going over the front of the car, and then she went too quick into the corner, and at that point you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're either going to have to apply the brake and you're going to spin, or you're just going to understeer off to the grass. So yeah, it's, that kind of plays a bit of a role for the rest of the race. You've got to be careful of that. It's so easy to make a mistake in these cars. Anders Meyer absolutely pushing that car though through the very same corner, and his rear wheels were just, sliding so much. We always say that, you need a little bit of slip in the tyre for maximum cornering grip. Like he was drifting, just goes to show his pace. Isaacson and Torp have started to settle down a little bit, and crucially, they're pulling away from that Grebstrad-Larson battle, which is so close. Just over a tenth separating those two. It was less than a tenth. It was about half a car width into the braking zone of Village. Jensen losing a place down in the field. Oh, and that's a spin. That's a spin for Christian and Jensen. So they've come together, and is that at Maggots and Beckett's, Tim? No, it's Stowe.
It was going to be one of those danger hot spots potentially, and so all looks good. Oh, he just loses. Asgard loses the rear by himself, and that just sends him careering there. It's the car next to him. I'll tell you, he's had a bit of a shocking opener. There's obviously a different angle of it here. So he darts down to the inside.
It's on the curb.
There you go. Yeah, the rear just starts to slip away from him. And that's what sends him careering into God next to him. And wow, there you go. It's another lock up there from Asgard. Those tyres are going to be crying right now because they're going to be heated up to beyond their optimum.
Oh yeah, you could see how little grip he had on the exit of the really slow speed loop and entry section. He just couldn't, you know, he's got no grip, and I'd be surprised if he didn't get away from that accident without some form of damage. It was high speed. Look again, we're stepping out through Brooklands. This is Grebstrad and Larson, as I was mentioning earlier. Torp kicking up a little bit of grass as well. And that always intrigues you as the driver behind. You think, this driver's really pushing up ahead. He could be starting to make a mistake, or maybe he's starting to feel the pressure. So battle is certainly not done for third, second, or even first. And that's why we love Formula 3. It's never done until the final corner of the final lap. Larson, though, just looks a little bit quicker at this stage of the race. Just able to place his car, place his Grebstrad car, and able to make the moves to the inside to sort of tempt Grebstrad into throwing some defensive maneuvers. But Larson doesn't seem to be losing too much time by doing them, and it's such a nice feeling as a driver. It means, you know, you've got the pace over the driver ahead of you, and you can almost have a little bit of fun. And of course, that only works as long as your tyres are still in a reasonable condition. And of course, Tim, that really matters as we come to the second race.
Just over halfway through race 1, 8 minutes completed out of the 15. Maya leads by nearly a second over Isaacson. Torp in the last podium place for now. Grebstrad 4th, Larson in 5th, Justin Bracken 6th, Nilsson, Jokkelsen, Andreasen, and Haig all rounding out your top 10. And fair between Haig and Ryan, a bit of a gap emerging there. Nearly 3.2 seconds between those two. So top 10 definitely pulling away. He's just managed to get past Otterhole, but that's for 20th. But these are a lap down. And Scarrett, another driver caught up in that early on action. He's well down the field. He's down into 17th. But the Berenson, big losers from that one. Likewise, Gullickson too. So definitely some big fallout here at Silverstone in race 1. Maya still got the fastest lap of the race. Managed that on a lap 3. Then he drive it into the 1 minute 50s. And his fastest lap is nearly half a second quicker than the closest, which is, oh no, apologies, 3 attempts. Torp holds that one. So Isaacson, he's nearly half a second slower in terms of fastest lap times. But I'll tell you what, despite that fastest lap crown, as it were, for now in race 1, Isaacson is definitely starting to chip away at Maya's lead, and I think can manage to hold on to this one, Seb. This to be his 4th victory of the season.
Absolutely crazy stat. Maya's been so dominant, but you know, it's almost sort of circumstances more than outright pace. The top 3 are just incredibly quick, and actually Isaacson leads the standings as we see Larson, who made a move into Stowe on the last lap, couldn't get the position done. Grebstrad, I think, held it around the outside, so Larson still now trying to take that 4th place. But Isaacson is the championship leader, and I don't think Isaacson's won. I think he might have won 1 race, not quite too sure on that, but Isaacson, you know,
Isaacson is his best is a second, which he twice he's been on the second step, and those both came at Spa in race 1 and 2, where that double second. That week at that race meeting as well, Torp managed a double victory, and it was the last time he's been on the top step of the podium.
Wow, that's a really good stat. Torp has been absolutely rapid this whole season, but Isaacson just goes to show consistency means so much in a championship. Even a shorter championship like this, just getting those consistent points finishes just really helps your cause. And this is what Larson, and to an extent Grebstrad, will be thinking about in the cockpit of their cars. They are aware that, you've got 5 minutes left to go in race number 1, and this is going to impact your position for race number 2. You don't really want to be driving over the limit in terms of defending or overtaking as they head side by side down in towards Stowe. Larson, once again, deciding for the outside line, and he manages to go all the way around the outside. Tell squirming as it just, Larson demanded so much grip. Down to the inside we go into Village, and Larson takes 4th place. Grevstad demoted to 5th, and a great move there by Ketchage Larson. And let's see now, can he start to catch his teammate Thomas Torp? And as Larson started to think about a podium, about 3.5 minutes to go, and it's Formula 3, anything can happen.
We've seen so far this season, anything can happen, anything will happen potentially. Drama right up to the final corners of the final lap in both races across the previous routes. Just seeing Jensen here trying to make a little bit of movement successively around the outside there. Great little overtake. That is on Sorensen, though. He's already a lap down, so they should be
running back, though.
Well, I'll tell you what he is. He's really fighting back here as gets ahead of Jensen there. Wow. Wasn't quite expecting that one. I mean, you say about just previously about Isaacson's consistency. The 6 races we've had so far across the 3 rounds of this season, he's only not finished on the podium once, and that came in race 2 at Kota. Other than that, he's been 2 seconds at Spa, 3rd at Kota, and 2/3 last time out at Interlagos. So definitely our most consistent podium finisher of anyone so far this season. This closest is Maya with 3 victories and 1 3rd place to his name. So he's definitely Mr. Consistent, and going again for yet another podium here in race 1. It's coming up to 13 minutes completed of race 1 out of the 15. It's going to be roughly about, just looking at where they are now, they're going to complete this lap, and this is going to be close as to whether this is white flag here, or they're going to have 2 more laps left. Let's take a little look as they come across the line. I think, yeah, we're going to have 2 more laps here.
I think if you're Anders May, you'll be dreading that, not seeing the white flag, because it means you've got 2 more laps, 2 more chances to make mistakes. And what I'm noticing just by watching Isaacson is he is so confident under brakes, especially into the slow speed corner of Village, and that really helps you out on the entry to the loop and entry. It just goes to show that Isaacson, lost the lead at the start of the race, got overtaken by his teammate Thomas Torp as well on the opening lap, but Isaacson certainly has some form of pace, and actually this lap he has turned the wick up to its maximum. He was 4/10 behind your race leader just a few corners ago. Lost out a little bit though through Brooklands and Luffield, maybe starting to over-push the car, but Anders Meyer coming under threat. Now we're going to see a change for the lead in the last lap. Certainly sounds like something F3 would do on the exit there of Cops. All neatly within the track limits. So easy to get a 1x here. So easy to go over the limits. Even though we do have the new track limits enforced here, it means that you have to go 4 wheels over the white line rather than the old sort of 2 wheels system. But I don't know about you, Tim, but I always tend to get quite a lot of off tracks throughout Silverstone. It's probably one of my worst.
You're not alone. Yes, definitely on that one. Definitely one that catches me out. Namely, Cops being one of them. So really encourages almost that off track, and the other one being Abbey as well, turn 1. So I'll tell you what, Isaacson is starting to, well, I'm being inch by inch getting closer to Meyer as the white flag is out. We have got 1 lap left here from race 1 in Silverstone. They come through Abbey Farm into Village, and then the slow, never-ending almost left-hander. There is the loop where you double back on yourself. Real challenging corner for those drivers on single monitors. You have to almost be looking over your shoulder. Even more tricky if you're side-by-side as we head down the Wellington Straight. And that gap is maintaining at half a second between our top 2. Isaacson just not seeming to quite have any answers for the moment. He's got another one more major opportunity. being down the hanger straight into Stowe, potentially then into Club where you come hard on the brakes as we come past the old start-finish line. And Maya is still leading. But Isaacson, he's got that gap down to 4/10 for the second talk, dropping out as Isaacson runs out wide through Cops. Really pushing absolutely everything. And look into Max Beckett, he's down to 3/10. This move could be on, but who's going to get the best exit? Out of Chapel is such a tricky curve. Isaacson almost losing the rear end there and just losing that little bit of time, just a little bit of momentum that might just allow Meyer to cling hold of this one by the skin of his teeth. But it's gonna be close because Isaacson is looming, and now it's Meyer's turn just to get a little bit squirrely at the rear end. And it's gonna take a big lunge, but Isaacson decides against it. Meyer holding on somehow, some way, despite the maximum amount of pressure being applied by Isaacson. And Meyer's gonna take the race 1 victory.
Incredible final lap here at race number 1 at Silverstone. Meyer, you're right, just holds out, but is that a case of Isaacson being able to save his tyres a little bit more? Is he just able to, does he have genuinely more pace at the end of the race, or was Isaacson sort of playing the long game? Not quite sure, but it's certainly going to be a fascinating race number 2. Also, what I noticed on the final lap as we were watching that battle, we had 2 drivers, and they were Hans Nielsen and Hendrik Andreasen, come into the pits. Now, they both pitted. They were, I think, about 8th and 9th at the time, and they both came into the pits. Now, this might not be the case, and I don't want to speculate, but Tim, as you know, the pit lane entry is the quickest way around the track. You miss out a significant portion of the final chicane. Were they trying to gamble and see if they could sort of miss the final part of the chicane and come into the pits? And
you know me, Seb, I love a good conspiracy theory, and that is an interesting one. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to have a bit of a look at that after the race. That's going to be an interesting one to see if there was maybe a bit of a sneaky, jiggery pokery being played out there in the Nordic F3 Championship. But I'll tell you what, we're just heading across now. The driver's got a bit of a warm-up between the 2 sessions. And we'll be able to bring you up some classified results very shortly from race 1. And, well, there you go. As if by magic, they appear. Meyer taking the victory. That making his 4th victory this season. And only not scoring a victory in round 1 at Spa. He's picked up victories at Kota and Interlagos and now Silverstone. Second place, that is Isaacson. Though only by 2 attempts in the end, with Torp rounding out your podium here for race 1. Larson, Grebstrad, Jessenbakken, Jokkelsen, and Haig rounding out your top 8. And I say top 8 because that's crucial, because 8th place will take pole for race 2. Ryan just missing out, although there's some 9 seconds down the road from Haig. He was in 9th with Haraldsson rounding out your top 10. Nilsson is 11th. Joachimsdotter, the lone Icelandic driver, she was 12th, with Andreasen in 13th. Hackelson and Scarrett in 15th. Scarrett, a bit of a disappointing one for the Agile Coatings driver. I'm sure we're looking for a bit of a resurgent race too. Jensen, he is in 16th with Asgard, 17th. Leeton in 18th. And then just ran out your field. Behrens, obviously that contact with the season at turn 1, costing them both dearly. The last drivers to finish on the lead lap with Sorensen, Otterholt, and Gullikson all 1 lap down, and rounding out your 22 car field here for race 1. But let's take a bit of a look at the championship standings while we're in this interim period between the 2 races. Isaacson missed the consistency of podium finishes. As I mentioned earlier, only 1 race out of 7 so far this season not on the podium, and that means he is top of the championship with Meyer with his 4 victories to his name. In second, Torp, only 2 victories, and that's why he is in 3rd and starting to get cut a little bit adrift now as we head into the second half of the season. Grebstrad his 4th, Gullikson 5th, Larson, Jesselbacken, Hendon, Behrens, and Jokkelsen rounding out your top 10. Now, Seb, we were talking about off tracks earlier, weren't we? And being... Silverstone, it almost encourages you to try and take them, but of course with this championship, we do have a very low incident count. Now, for every time you come off track, you do pick up a 1x, so one incident, in which the drivers are only allowed 12 of those before they get a drive-through. We've seen this before this season. We're going to see potentially some drive-throughs here in race 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of the story of Spa, you know, all of the drivers sort of having to really manage their incident points. They were more managing incident points than they were wheel-to-wheel racing. Of course, you know, you mentioned that you get 1 incident point if you sort of go off the track. If you get involved in a serious incident, that's 4 incident points you pick up. So a mix of, you know, a crash that you go off track and you hit another car, and you could be looking at almost half of your incident points being taken up, as this is your grid for race number 2.
There we go. Haig on pole with Jokkelsen on the front row. Jessenbakken and Grebstrad on the second row, with Larsen and Torp on the third row. Isaacson and Meyer there on the fourth row. Obviously, Meyer, race 1 winner. Then we've got Ryan Haraldson, Nielsen and Joachimsdotter in 12. Andreasen and Halkson, Scarrett and Jensen, Asgard Vlieten, and Behrens and Sorensen running out your top 20 in the 10th row of the grid. Then it's Otterholt and Gullikson to round out your grid here across the race results from race 1, forming that grid by the top 8, which they are inverted, as we mentioned previously. Just waiting the last couple of drivers to hit the grid before we'll be heading off for 30 minutes of racing in race 2. Always so much more tricky with those inverted grid, but here come the lights, and let's get ready to go racing once again from Silverstone, the Nordic F3 Championship, and we are away. And what a great start for the second row of the grid. Jessenbakken launching into full attack mode, but has to back out, and that's cost him dearly, so he's back down to 4th where he started, as everyone just trying to find some space. We've got 2 wides, we've got 3 wides, as we head into turn 3 for the first time. Through Village, through the loop. It's so tricky and treacherous on cold tyres on this opening lap through there, but somehow everyone just about making it through. As we head down the Wellington straight, Meyer trying to make some progress. He's had a good size already, up to 5th, up 3 places, and now trying to find a way past Jessenbakken, and I think he's just about managed to do it, and he's even going for another place, trying to displace Haig. That's onto the podium, and we haven't even completed half of lap 1, Seb.
A good start from Anders Meyer, really showing his true pace. Absolutely lost for words, I think it's fair to say. Grebstrad as well had a mega start. Echoed what he did actually in race 1. He had such a good pull away in race number 1. Goes a little bit wide though through Cox. Jokkelsen is your race leader still. Thomas Torp though is following in Anders Meyer's footstep. Down the inside he goes into the second part of the Maggots and Beckett's complex, and that's important for Thomas Torp, as he is right behind his main championship rival. And Isaacson has not managed to emulate what Torp and Meyer have done. He's down in 7th place, and he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to be up fighting for this race number 2 victory. And here he is. Anders Meyer started in 8th, up to 3rd, and it doesn't look like anything is going wrong. It's down the inside goes Grebstrad into Club, and Jokkelsen even just manages to keep the speed around the outside, and that's allowed Anders Meyer to gain. Is he thinking about taking the lead as we head into turn 1? It certainly looks tempting.
It does indeed, but look who's looming. It's Meyer, ready to pounce, ready to pick up any potential scraps, and he's looking up the inside of Jokkelsen, and that is surely going to be the move done. Into Village, and a bit of a lock-up from Torp, who's desperately trying to keep at onto the coattails of Meyer, who's dispatched of Jokkelsen and has the number 8 car between himself and Torp. They head down the Wellington straight. We look back from Meyer to Jokkelsen. Now trying to find a way to dispatch of Grebstrad to take control of race 2 here in the UK.
Oh, Haig's had an issue. Sorry to cut in there, Tim. Our pole sitter has just been off of the track, and down he tumbles down the timing stand. So a disastrous start from our pole sitter, but our race 1 winner is absolutely lighting the timing stands up as Grebstrad once again goes wide. He's not made the apex of Cops so far this race.
A bit of a bump there across the curbs through Magnus and Beckett as we come out of Chapel Curve. And the way that Maya's lines is just that bit neater, allowing him to carry that momentum through, plus being in the slipstream. And surely this is going to be the move, and this change for the lead into Stowe. There you go. Maya ahead of Grebstrad, and Torp desperately trying to close that gap up. And you can bet your bottom dollar he'll be itching to get past Grebstrad as quick as possible to take this fight to Maya. But Maya, he's going to try and pull out a biggest gap as possible. Already nearly 3 tenths ahead of Grebstrad. But Grebstrad is really hanging in there, trying to copy the lines of Maya to find as much pace as he possibly can. As we come down into Village, and then the loop, a bit of a lock-up in the background there. I think that might have been Jokkelsen. And wow, somehow they all remain as they are, Seb.
They do indeed. Thomas Torp got caught up with scrapping with Jokkelsen into Kopp, so he couldn't capitalise on Maya going through on Grebstrad. He's having to do it the hard way and trying the move all by himself. He is so much quicker through the apex of Brooklands there. Almost for a minute thought we were going to see an almighty accident on the apex of Brooklands. They all managed to make it through with no incidents. Jokkelsen now dropping off the back of Thomas Torp. This is turning in to a 3-way fight for the lead, but Grebstrad, to his credit, sticking very firmly on the back of Anders Meyer in the lead. They all go wide through through Kops, and it seems like everybody's trying to outdo each other. Just go a little bit wider than the driver before them. It's so easy to follow a driver into a mistake. If a driver goes wide, you just sort of are so fixated on watching them that you follow it through. Talking of the straights, Grebstrad made a little bit of an error on the exit of Magnus and Beckett, and that's going to allow Thomas Torp to the inside line. The move is certainly not done, but Torp has the overall better position, and he takes it through. Gets a little bit up on the curb there. Car gets slightly unstable at the apex of Stowe. Thomas Torp is in second place, and Tim, that means that this fight for the lead is well and truly on, as Meyer has not been able to pull away from this pack, and we know how quick Torp is. And here is that in the background. That's Ryan coming under pressure there from Nilsson and Haraldsson. They're in a little train of their own. And actually, Scarrett isn't too far off the back of this pack, so yeah, this is sort of a developing battle, and it's reminiscent of a DRS train in Formula 1, but there's no DRS. It's just I think it's just a craziness train, to be honest. As to the outside goes, Nilsson can't make the way through, has to be wary of the number 24 car, Haraldsson behind him. And whoa, Haraldsson very late under brakes. That's going to allow Scarrett through. Scarrett up to P11, and Nilsson and Ryan battling for 9th and 10th respectively.
I'll tell you what, it really is game on here in race 2. We've only had 6 minutes of racing out of the 30. Still everything very much to play for. And Scarrett, well, probably feel a little bit grieved. Already at 4 places, but that result in race 2 definitely hurting him. Nilsson definitely, well, feels like for everyone else behind him, he's holding them up, but really pushing it to the max, as we see Haig right now. Earlier incident costing him so dearly. This is a replay of what happened. Let's take a little look at the 71. So he runs it in really deep there. And oh, there was contact. So a bit of contact there, Seb, if my eyes deceive me.
Yeah, so Haig has gone very deep into Brooklands and unaware of, I think it was one of the OGL Coatings cars. Who is that? That's the number 90. Just looking at my timing screen. So that's Justin Bakken. So it's sort of quite a clumsy accident at the apex of Brooklands there. Haig, I think, not aware that Justin Bakken was diving to the inside. It's quite a silly accident to have, and Haig ultimately came off a lot worse, down in 17th place, while Justin Bakken recovered very nicely, in fact, to 6th place. So clearly he didn't lose anywhere near as much time as Haig, but yeah, I think a misunderstanding at the apex of Brooklands, and this is a replay of the start, and this is what happened to Jacob Behrens, the number 12 car. And what's going to happen is they all head to turn 1. Oh, and another misunderstanding, this time at turn 1. And who is that? That's
Behrens again at turn 1, Seb.
Who was that other car? That blue and yellow car.
Sorensen, I think. Was it
Yeah.
Soren? I think potentially, or was it Asgard? No, I think it was Asgard, wasn't it, in the 64?
Yeah, so Asgard. So Asgard's played it a little bit cautious into turn one, as you're inclined to do, and unfortunately for him, it's it's the driver behind, really not taking it cautiously, and that's really what happens at turn one. You'd normally suggest that it's the driver's behind's responsibility to not end up in a collision, but everything happens so quickly. So there's the accident we see, and then almost in sympathy to Vieten there, and gets taken out by the number 80 car, and that is Sorensen. So yeah, two IGL Coatings cars misjudging their braking into turn one and sort of taking out two other competitors, and yeah, Vieten, Jensen, Asgard all out of this race, with Sorensen fairly lapping in no man's land. 1 minute 24 off the lead with still 20 minutes to go, and that Ryan Harrelson baton is still going on, Tim.
It is indeed. It is still looming large as, oh, is this going to be a free wide here? Hello, what? Wow, that's brave into there. You don't normally tend to see him through Vale and into Club free wide and it not end in disaster, but somehow they all emerge out the other side as they all sway around on the exit Club, come down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. And it's all this contact. Oh, two cars have spun. And it's Andreas, and I think Joachim Stockton was the other one. There's Harrelson now locks up, and likewise, Otto Holt does as well. They're all having synchronised incidents here, Seb.
They do, so it's Andreasen and Joachim Stotter, the two major losers in that kerfuffle at turn one. Let's have a look at the replay here. This is Joachim Stotter, your pink car, the number 23 in the background. So the number 91, oh, it's so unfortunate for Joachim Stotter, nothing she could do. Just the two cars ahead of her, concertinaing effect into turn one. She's the unlucky victim. And through goes our pole sitter Haig to at least retake one of the positions. And then we have this really unusual scene of everybody locking up into turn four. Never seen so many drivers sort of make this exact same mistake. As we head back to your live pictures, Harrelson in 12th, Ryan in 11th, and Scarra up to 10th place. As we see, they're still battling in the background. I saw two drivers side by side coming around Stowe Corner, and this, Tim, is your battle for the lead. Thomas Torp just sort of lapping away, and actually Grebstrad's not too far out of this fight. Don't count him out for being able to lead this race, maybe even, dare I say it, win this one. We're going to have to see. 18 minutes to go, and Torp is certainly looking quicker at the moment.
This battle is absolutely intensifying. It's reaching fever pitch between Meyer and Torp. Two of the main protagonists at Isaacson. He's second in the championship, down in fourth. Work to do to try and catch up with them. But I'll tell you what, Seb, hats off to Gredstrad, who, despite losing the lead, has stayed in touch with these top two and not looked out of place whatsoever.
No, he really hasn't. His pace has been really not only quick but consistent as well, and that's so important. Is Gullickson and Justin back and having a little bit of a fight out on track, and we're watching Jokkelsen and Isaacson. Isaacson just managed to pass Jokkelsen on the last lap, and that's really key for our championship, or our former championship leader Isaacson. He is now, the only cars ahead of him are the cars who are directly in the battle for the race win. Can he break his duck? Can he get a race win here in Silverstone tonight? Well, only about 18 minutes stand in his way from that answer. Thomas Torp had such a great run out of Magus and Beckett's, though. He's got the slipstream, he's got the tow, he's got absolutely everything as we head down towards Stowe Corner. Doesn't feel like he wants to make a move at this point. Maybe likes the idea of Meyer feeling the pressure, starting just to overuse his tyres, to push a little bit harder. And of course, if you're pushing harder, you wear out the tyres, but you're more susceptible to making those little silly mistakes that can cost you race victories. Torp has just got so much command of that car, at the moment. And there's Nilsson, Otterholt and Andreasen all having a battle out on track. Sorry, it's Harrelson, Nilsson, Otterholt even there, swapping positions left, right and centre. And I think, Tim, our job as commentators are about to become very hard, so we've got battles up and down the field.
Let's not forget, the drivers all do need to take a pit stop during this race. They are limited on fuel. So we're going to see pit strategy playing a part here. Well, it remains to be seen. We're coming up to half race distance, starting to get into the pit window now. There's Haig looking to mount an attack over Joachimsdotter. They're trying to fill her mirrors right now with that 71 to Lara F3. Hard onto the brakes, into Aintree, so into Village, and then a loop, and then we've got Aintree. Onto the Wellington straight, but maybe not quite going to be close enough. I'll tell you what, Joachimsdotter getting an absolutely blistering exit there out of the loop, which is carried forward into Aintree. All the way down the Wellington straight. She's going to hold on to that place. It's what they can do to maybe work together or just close up to Hackleson. He's off the track and he's going to lose 2 places there.
Yeah, I think it's there's some tyre smoke, I think, off Hackleson's car. Let's have a look at the replay. This is heading down into Brooklands, and what is going to occur? Slightly late under brakes, very late under brakes, just gets on the grass and yeah, no grip out there, Sunshine, and lost 2 positions because of it. Actually, it wasn't Hackleson making the smoke. I do believe it was Haig locking up through Luffield. But Joachimsdotter, haven't really mentioned her too much, but Joachimsson in the pits, and you can just see that effect as I was talking about in the last race. Joachimsson actually technically jumped in the lead for a split second just because it's so powerful, the pit entry here. But Joachimsdotter had a great race, won. Even after that spin, came back and sort of gained 6 or 7 places, and unfortunately lost out at the start. And of course, we saw that spin for her at turn 1 a few laps ago. But Joachimsdotter has a lot of pace this race and just hasn't had the luck really to go with it. So that's a little bit of a shame. As Tim, I've just noticed we have a change for the lead, and Thomas Torp is your new race leader.
He has. Funnily enough, I was just having a look at the timing sheet, so well spotted there, Seb. I'll tell you what, Gullickson, I'm an absolute blinder, currently in 6th place. Yes, a little bit adjusted for pit stops, but not massively. Up 16 places so far, also at 10.
He was running in 7th place without the pit stop, so yeah, that's almost his true position. Amazing, amazing.
It is, absolutely brilliant drive from number 55. This is the change for the lead. We can see much resistance from Maya. Wow. The perennial slipstream move down the hang straight into Stowe, and Maya not putting up much of a fight, but it's what Torp can do from this moment forward. Can he pull out much of a gap, or is Maya just going to sit in this slipstream, maybe just do a bit of fuel saving? Not going to get much benefit from that so late it's in the race. Going on 16 minutes out of 30, so 14 remaining. Maya, maybe this is more about conserving the tyres. I was chatting to F3 drivers earlier in the week, Seb, who was saying that really the key is with the F3 now, with this changing tyre model at the start of the season, albeit getting off for nearly 3 months ago, as all Gullickson into the pits from 4th, that it's really about looking after your tyres, and especially with these slightly longer races, it really starts to pay dividends with the grip available in the latter stages. As you see Maya close up there.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I think to back up your point, Tim, is Maya's fastest lap time of the race until actually last time by was about 1 minute 50.7, and you know, if you compare that to Thomas Torp's fastest lap, 1 minute 51.5. 1 minute 51.2, that's 5/10 difference there. So I think Maya definitely playing the long game, not really using any more of the tyre than he needs to. He got the lead and then was very happy to stay just in the lead, you know, not starting to extend that gap to, you know, to sort of eat your sweets slower and have them later rather than having all of your sweets in one go. I think is the best analogy I can give for that. So has Thomas Torp used up his grip too soon? Or has he played a blinder and Maya been, you know, caught short tyre saving? And I think the real answer is only going to be played out in about 12 minutes time. And also what we saw actually at the end of of the last race when we were talking to the drivers, Tim, is that, you know, because we've been in the pit saying, well, why aren't these drivers changing tyres at the pit stops? You know, it doesn't cost them too much time. But of course, you know, the drivers were saying, like, it's not about the tyre wear that's too bad, it's the tyre temperature. And actually, it takes so many laps to get the tyres sort of back into that window of being able to really push on them that, you know, actually, even if you're going like a second a lap slower on used tyres, it's still better than, you know, having to come in and sort of take that risk and sort of having to go through that heat cycle, or that heating cycle even. So yeah, these tyres are so tricky as Larson joins the group of pitters so far. Jessin Bakken, another one, and watch and see, is Jessin Bakken going to come ahead of Gullickson?
I'll tell you what, Seb, Isaacson has just set the fastest lap of the race, currently in third place, going 200ths of a second quicker than Torp's previous fastest, which was 51.16. So Isaacson definitely getting the hammer down now in a bit of free air. So trying to close this gap up, although a bit of work cut out right now as got 1.3 seconds to Maya. So definitely going to have to push a bit harder if he wants to close that one up. As I say that, just instantly loses about another couple of attempts there. So Isaacson is really pushing, but a couple of mistakes starting to creep in, and that's what's going to hurt him. And also, as you mentioned, Seb, the expense of that increased tyre temperature that's going to hurt as we move further into the race. It's approaching 2/3 race distance. 20 minutes completed. Out of the 30, Torp leads from Meyer. Isaacson third. Grabstrad fourth. Jokkelsen, the first of the drivers to pit, currently in fifth. Scarrett, Larson, Gullickson to eighth. Well, we'll say that Larson's just got past Scarrett, and Larson has pitted. Scarrett hasn't, so that's a good move there from Larson. Look back from Torp right now. Meyer trying to hunt him down. Just happy. Oh, they're both into the pit, Seb and Isaacson, so our top three all instantly follow each other in, and Grebstrad comes in as well, our top four. Where is Jokkelsen? I think he's going to be way too far back to try and take control of this race and take the lead. Now it's the race in the pit stop. Who's got the best pit entry? Who's going to get the best entrance to the pit box and then the pit exit? It's going to be close. There's going to be enough fighting coming on. Torp stationary. So is Isaacson. Grebstrad, his pit box is just beyond them, and they're all on the pit exit. So it's just behind that pit wall. And who's going to merge out in front? Well, it's Torp, Meyer, Isaacson and Grebstrad. So how they went in, but Isaacson, more crucially, has taken a few attempts around about, to be fair, he's taken around about 7 attempts out of the top 2 during the pit stops. That is what is so crucial, isn't it, Seb?
He was
nail his batteries.
He was 9/10 quicker in the overall pit lane time than Anders Meyer, and that just is so crucial when it comes to racing. You know, 9/10 is a huge amount of time. It's you know if you're 9/10 quicker on the lap, you know it's you're like, wow, that's such an amazing lap, and you know you can gain so much time in the pits, and that's exactly what Isaacson has done. Torp is just about kept the same gap to Anders Meyer. Maybe Anders was a little bit compromised on pit entry because he was following Thomas so closely into the pits, and of course it really, you know, can put you off. You know, you don't want to push so much towards the pit entry line because, you know, you don't want to either rear-end the driver or sort of risk sort of losing your place and sort of, you know, picking up a speeding penalty. So, yeah, stories developing as that's, I think, the number 66 car of Scarrick going pretty wide on the exit of Cops Corner. Larson and Jokkelsen still having a mega battle. 4 tenths separating the two drivers as we head down towards Stowe. And just what a race this has been. 7.5 minutes to go, and I think almost every driver has had some form of will-to-will battle. And you know, we've had 2 races now. The drivers will be starting, I think, to get a little bit mentally fatigued. You know, not thinking maybe on their A game, not, you know, able to make those really quick split-second decisions. So, you know, as the race goes on, it's going to get harder for the drivers to, you know, to be racing at this, you know, super competitive level, because, you know, these drivers are not sort of, you know, driving around to survive. They are pushing the absolute limits of these cars. There's Haraldson and that's Haraldson and Ryan even having a battle into Stowe. And I thought there for a minute that Ryan was going to dive off towards the pit lane, but that was his defensive maneuver. Oh! As Harrelson there gets all locked up under braking, loses a lot of time, and might even lose a position to Nielsen as we head round the final corner to start another lap. Nielsen in the slipstream of Harrelson pulls out towards the inside line. Is he going to make a move into Abbey? He's certainly thinking about it, and through girls Nielsen. Harrelson will have more speed around the outside though, and that's still going to be the outside for turn number 3. Harrelson later on the brakes. Nielsen's got the inside line, but that becomes the outside line for turn 4. Harrelson dives towards the inside, just about manages to keep the position, but doesn't have the greatest of exits out of the loop. Through Aintree they go, still side by side as we head down towards Brooklyn's corner, and Nielsen just takes that position. So Harrelson, after making that mistake, after trying to overtake Ryan even, is now down in 13th position. And that's worked in Nielsen's favour. And right behind them is Behrens, who has just come out of the pit, so his tyres are a little bit cooler. And what can he do to maybe clear these two cars in the next couple of laps? And Tim, I always have such a big smile on my face when we commentate on Nordic F3. It always provides action. As here
there
we
you
have.
go. It's happening again, Seb. It's you summoned it, it happens, and we're seeing Larson and Jokelsson wheel to wheel right now as they battle out, and this is all happening over 5th place. Let's not forget, as they finally sort themselves out. Larson having to slot back in again behind Jokelsson, but they need to be careful because Gullikson is not far behind indeed. As we come now down into Village, hard onto the brakes, and they almost trip up over one another, and Larson there just locks up, trying to take evasive action so he didn't run into the back of Jokelsson, but Gullikson, maybe was just trying to capitalise on a bit of a mistake there, unable to do so, and just backing out slightly, playing it safe. Now, in terms of drivers that are making their incurred drive-throughs, Jakob Behrens has been into the pits twice, so I do worry for him to put pay to his aspirations. No, I haven't said that, still in 13th. And already up 6 places by 2 pit stops, so definitely you have to wonder what could have been for him as Gullikson tries to find a way to get back into the fight. Jokelsson and Larson, who are busy preoccupying one another. We've got 4 minutes left on the clock here in race 2, round 4 from Silverstone in the Nordic F3 Championship. And you can see the way through Magnus and Beckett's just how the cars are moving around, and Gullikson out onto the grass there on the exit of Chapel. And that means he's going to undo all that great hard work that he's been putting in, Seb.
Yeah, another case of just the dirty air, catching a driver out and just not having the necessary front airflow over the front wing, and just understeer and off you go. Very well though, it's so easy, he did very well there, it's so easy to lose it on the exit of the grass. It's super slippery out there, and you know you can have a very sort of silly looking spin. So Gullikson, although he'll be upset with that, I think he's been very lucky in the grand scheme of things. This is the battle for second place. Anders Meyer has not had the pace of your race leader Thomas Torp, and has just fallen back into the clutches of Isaacson as we head through Aintree onto the Wellington straight now, down towards Brooklyn's corner. Can Isaacson make a move to the inside, or is he just waiting for a little bit of a better overtaking spot? Look how much Isaacson is gaining in the slipstream. The straight just not long enough to carry that momentum into any form of overtaking manoeuvre, but Isaacson looking absolutely rapid at this phase of the race. And you know, where we saw Meyer once again, you know, struggle sort of at the end of the race in race 1, he's struggling at the end of the race in the second race as well, Tim.
It's definitely not being his friend here in Silverstone, and now coming under a lot of pressure from the 77 of Isaacson. He's double digits, looking to move up into second place, and Torp is pulling away now, 1.7 seconds clear of Meyer. You can see visually the gap between the pair of them, and Isaacson is tucked up right into the slipstream. Maya moves to the inside. He says to Isaacson, if you want to get past, you're going to have to do it the hard way, right around the outside of Stowe. And Isaacson is just trying to move Maya into position. If he can hold it around the outside here, he'll have the inside into the final corner, but Maya just shuts the door right in his face to keep hold of second. But how long can he keep this up? He's got 1 minute 40 left on the clock, and this is going to be the final lap. The white flag flies here at Silverstone in race 2, and all to play for. Game on as Isaacson is over Maya like a rash, and Maya just can't shake him whatever he tries. And all just a slight little mistake from Isaacson there. Little twitch in the car, had to correct it, but that's just going to give Maya that tiny bit of breathing space that he needs. But Isaacson is instantly back into the slipstream, trying to get right up onto the coattails of Maya, and only 3 attempts separate them as we come through Luffield, through Woodcote, out onto the old original start-finish straight, and then it's Cops, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, and out onto the Hangar straight. And if Isaacson can keep this sort of gap, you've got to bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a big move into Stowe, and Isaacson is pushing hard, using all of the track and some more. It's all about keeping it clean and tidy here through Maggots and Beggots. We go left, right again before we come out of Chapel. Who's got the best exit? Well, they look pretty even. Maya moving around, trying to blake that slipstream down the Hangar straight, and Isaacson might just be that bit too far back here to mount an attack. Maya might be safe. Torp's well up ahead. You can see him just in the distance as we come through Vale, down into Club. And I think this might just be done and dusted, bar a mistake from any one of our drivers. But Torp's going to take the race 2 victory here at Silverstone. And Maya's hold on, but wow, Isaacson, well, left scrolling with a massive tank slapper across the line. And yet another podium finish.
It's deja vu all over again, wasn't it? We had Isaacson chasing Maya down on the last lap of both races, and Isaacson, just to show, almost doubled the gap to Maya that he had in the first race, up to a frankly shocking 4 tenths between the two. I mean, it's unacceptable from a driver. Isaacson, a great job. Maya as well, you know, held on to the car, you know, superbly well on that final lap. It certainly looked like the tyres weren't, it definitely weren't in their optimal window anymore. Down the field, Nielsen had some form of incident on the last lap, and that's allowed Joachimsdotter and Behrens to get through. And Behrens is sort of snug up to 12th place. Joachimsdotter in 13th. Harrison comes across the line in 14th place, with Nielsen down in 15th. So Nielsen losing a few positions on the final lap. Yeah, what a great race up and down the field, and not too many drivers have had to make that sort of embarrassing trip through the pit lane again to serve the drive-through penalty for too many incidents. I'm seeing only a few drivers that have actually had to do more than one pit stop, but that could have just been for damage sake rather than, you know, any form of incident limit infractions. Is I think everybody who is out on the track has now crossed the line. So we'll bring you your results very soon. But what a final race from Thomas Torp, Tim. I mean, you know, he didn't seem to have the pace in race 1, but he certainly switched it on for race 2.
Yeah, it was absolutely cracker once again. But Torp, as you mentioned, taking the victory in race 2 with Maya and Isaacson rounding out your podium. 4th time Isaacson has finished in 3rd place this season. They're continuing that rich vein of form of podiums. Grebstrad in the end in 4th. Where he started, likewise, was Larson in 5th. Jokkelsen dropping 4 places, 6th. Gullikson, what a drive from him, up 15 places. That's right, 15 places into 7th. Be absolutely ecstatic with that one. Jesselbakken in 8th. Scarrett 9th, with Andreasen rounding out your top 10. Ryan Behrens, who has had a race meeting to forget. Incidents at turn 1, in race 1 and race 2, really putting pay to his aspirations. You have to wonder, if he hadn't have had those, where could he have finished? Jokelsdotter, Haraldsson, and Nielsen take you up to 15th. It's Otterholt, Haig, Olsen in 18th, with Sorensen on 19th, and moving through the field, we've got Sviten, Jensen, and Asgard. All retirees. We lost Sviten on lap 3. Jensen, likewise on lap 3, and Asgard, unfortunately, didn't make it past the first lap. But Seb, I think we were sport for choice a little bit, but let's have a bit of a chat to race 2 winner. Let's have a chat to Thomas Torp. Congratulations, Thomas. 2 podiums, obviously a third in race 1, a victory in race 2. Back to winning ways. It's the first time we've seen you on the top step of the podium since round 1 at Spa when you had that double victory.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good race today.
It was, I mean, obviously race 2. Did you feel much pressure from Anders Meyer? I mean, it seemed like you two were incredibly competitive early on before he just seemed to drop off after the pit stops.
Yeah, sure. I was behind him in 3-4 laps to save the tires and save a little bit of fuel. So maybe he burned a little bit more tires than me, and I was surprised that he dropped off after the pit stop. So I just had to drive as fast as I could after the pit stop.
So you're finding more so that in these longer race 2s that it's more about your tire conservation and looking after those tires than initial outright pace right from the start.
Yeah, sure. It was a big drop off on the end of the race, so I had to be very, very careful.
Before we let you go, Thomas, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Sure, my whole team. We had a great practice yesterday, and it's very fun to be a part of a big team.
Definitely. So congratulations on a third in race 1 and a victory in race 2. That's Thomas Torp. Seb, I believe you're standing by with Anders Meyer.
I certainly am. Good evening, Anders. Great race from your side, would you say? Or are you a little bit disappointed with not being able to get the second race win?
Yeah, of course, disappointed, but I don't know. It didn't feel good today. I just didn't get the feeling with the car. On the whole warm up before the qualifying, I just didn't have any feeling. It just wasn't my day, so I was a bit scared of how it would turn out. But the sprint race felt nice, but then again in the main race, the car just didn't do what I wanted at all. So yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Just, I guess, you're going to sort of look back at the race and try and work it out, or are you just going to forget about Silverstone and move on to the next race in Barcelona?
Yeah, of course I have to try and analyze, but I think it's just down to what you call it in English, how you feel. It's a lot about feeling, and some days you feel good and some days you don't have the feeling. So I think today was just one of those days, but I'm a bit. I wanted to score more points because I'm not really sure if I can attend to the next race. I will try my best, but I'm not sure. So I need all the points I can get, as I have been taken out in 2 of the 4 first races. So it's not been easy, but I've had the pace when I've been there. But it's hard to fight against the whole team on your own.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're talking about having an off day and you finish first and second in both races, that's that's a pretty good off day. Yeah, incredible pace. So we saw you make a mistake in qualifying at Stowe. Do you think that you could have been on pole for the first race, or do you think sort of, I guess what I'm asking, were you up on that lap that you made that mistake at the final part of qualifying?
Yeah, I had a couple of attempts, but it wouldn't have been pole anyway. I would just have been closer to Nils Erik. So it didn't make any difference. But it would have been nice to get that lap in to have the confidence going into the sprint race. But I had a good start. You can turn that frustration into motivation and try to change it around for the race, and I managed to do that. So that was quite good.
I like that saying. That's yeah, that's really really interesting. Yeah, I mean, great race from your side. One thing I was going to mention is, you found yourself having to battle Isaacson on the final lap of both races. Were you sort of struggling with tyres, or did you sort of plan your tyre degradation to sort of a T and sort of know that you'll be able to you could push as much as you want up to the final lap because you know that you'll be able to survive for that extra lap ahead of the driver, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, the tires was a big problem for me because in the sprint race I felt at the end that the tires were going off. So Niserik came pretty close at the end, and then I thought in the main race I have to manage them. So I drove pretty safe up until the pit stop. So it was pretty easy for Thomas to hang on to me because I was playing it so safe with my tires. But then after the pit stop, the tires just died anyways. So I don't know, maybe it would have been a better strategy for me today to change the tires. But then again, I was so close to them, so I would have lost so much. So I don't know. I just I have to look at the telemetry and see what I did to ruin the tires so much. But it's as Nils-Erik said, it's just a couple of corners and it's enough to ruin the tires if you get them overheated. So it's not so easy.
Wow, yeah, such a balance these tyres are on. Well, congratulations once again on a great race. Before we let you get off and start analysing, is there anybody you'd like to mention on the broadcast at all?
Yeah, I have to mention my team. Even though they're not in this series with me, I know they're following it, and I have to say I can give a shout out to them. Give a shout out to our sponsors: CarX, Dodeno, Racing Lab, and KTM, and of course, thanks to you guys for the broadcast.
No worries. Well, thank you very much, and we hope to see you in Barcelona. If not, we'll see you for the final round in the Nürburgring.
Yeah, we hope so. Thank you.
Seb, I'll allow you to have the honours of the final interview with, I think it needs to be renamed Mr. Consistency, making it now 7 times on the podium from 8 races so far this season. It's Nils-Erik Isaacson.
Yeah,
Hello.
I mean, hello. Yeah, talk us through your race because it looked pretty promising from your perspective, but you just couldn't get there in the end for both races.
Yeah, first of all, great congratulations to Thomas and Anders. I think at least Thomas deserved it very today. He has had a bit of a bad bit lately. So, yeah, my race, I think there were some more points to get today, but yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, you were leading the championship going into the race just by, being consistent. Is that sort of like a strategy that you're actively thinking about in the car? Like, I'm not going to make this move because I just want to get to the end, or does your driving style sort of naturally suit that sort of?
No, I cannot say that, but what can I say? Maybe I'm a bit too nice. I don't know.
Well, it's working for you. Whatever you're doing, it's certainly working for you. I mean, only one time this season not being on the podium, which was the second race in Kota. So, I mean, whatever you're doing is certainly working for you.
Yeah, it's good points, but I think Anders has it now. I need some victories to because there is a drop week and everything, so I lose a lot of points. So yeah.
Well, interestingly, Anders was saying that he doesn't think he'll be able to attend next round, so maybe that's your opportunity to gain those points and make a very exciting final race in Germany. What was I going to say? So you ended up having to battle Anders on both the final laps of both races. Did you feel like you could have got the sprint race win and the second place in the second race, or did you sort of like kind of know on the last lap that it was going to be super difficult to make that overtake?
Yeah, it's of course difficult, but I thought I had more pace at the moment in both races. I think he struggled with a little bit with his tires or something, and he was sliding all over the place. So I don't know. Yeah, I should probably. Yeah, I needed today to go in front of him, but yeah, again, yeah, second and third is not bad.
It certainly isn't, and only racing drivers would be upset with a second and third place. I think great driving from you, and yeah, I think for you it was so tantalizingly close, to gain those positions on Anders. Do you feel that you sort of didn't Do you think that if you'd have pushed the tyres earlier in the race, that would have helped, or whatever you were going to do, it was going to sort of end up at roughly the same position?
I took a little bit of time to get through the field, and yeah, I don't think it would be matter so much. I had plenty of time to make a move, so in the feature race. So it's just me, I think, and Anders is also very good at defending. So yeah, we have to take some chances next time, maybe.
Well, Barcelona does sort of lend itself to that sort of style of driving. So yeah, we'll wish you all the luck for the next race. And before we're letting you go, is there anybody you'd like to mention on the broadcast?
Yeah, the broadcast team, very good, and also the organizers, and of course my team. We have good practice sessions. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time in Barcelona. And Tim, what a race that was. I always enjoy the Nordic F3 races, but I thoroughly enjoyed that one.
It was another classic from a classic championship at a classic circuit. Just classics all round. And if you love your motorsport, well, we have got an absolute weekend of speed and racing. And what better way to kick it off on Friday night at 8 p.m. GMT. It is round one of the ARL Prototype Championship from Spa. What a great way to start that season off. And if you join myself and Seb, well, you'll be hearing plenty of us across the weekend. We'll be both back in the commentary booth for the VSCA Sports Car Championship for Mid-Ohio. And that's going to be an absolutely intriguing one. 4:30 GMT for that one. Before 9 o'clock, it is the Apex Racing Academy, where Austin and Seb will be in the commentary booth for that one. It's always a classic format, 3 15-minute sprint races. Wow, this is going to be intriguing. For myself and Austin at 10:45 GMT, it's Formula Renault 3.5, where we'll be from Laguna Seca, where it's been an intriguing season and a tricky circuit for Formula cars. That's going to be an interesting one. And then on Sunday at 9 p.m. GMT, we have got the SRF Weekend Warriors from Sebring. And that is a absolutely amazing championship that's full to the brim with action from the start to the very end. And then if you like extending weekends, well, on Monday it's the Israel iRacing League touring cars from Spa. It's going to be another absolute barnstormer. That's from 8 p.m. GMT. But what can we say? It's been three drivers on the podium in both races, but just in different orders. Meyer taking his 4th victory of the season, Torp his 3rd victory of the season, but Isaacson the 2nd and 3rd, making it, as we said, now 7 races out of 8 that he has been on the podium, and hence why he leads the championship. But it's going to be interesting as we head to the penultimate round of the championship from Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. Who can come out victorious? Can Isaacson continue his rich vein of form, or maybe even finally take a step up onto the top step of the podium? Well, make sure you tune in. I've been Tim Cox with Seb Bosher-Williams and Lisa Wright in the production booth. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time from Spain.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.